as a black man, right, in that space in technology, learning on your own, what were some of the roadblocks, right, that maybe would turn someone off, right, that they have to get around? What were some of the things that you experienced that you was like, no, let me keep going?
Good question. So for one, it was like just being black, honestly, man. Like I step into a lot of these spaces and I'm the only one in the room. It's just like, is this for me? So imposter syndrome is something that we all got to get over. And thankfully I got some opportunities that just boosted my confidence and kept me going forward. Also having a felony, that was big for me, but honestly, I can say it now, but I lied for the first few years. I didn't tell companies that I had a felony.
Welcome to the Know Your Rights Camp podcast. My name is Tat Wizard, and if you know me, I'm here to talk tech. I'm joined today by my dazzling co-host, Mariella, and we're honored to have Mr. Antoine Digital in the building with us to talk this technology.
Thanks for having me.
How you feeling, sir?
Feeling great,
That's
man.
What's up. That's what's up. Now, listen, we know that you are a coder, right? You did some time in prison.
Right.
And then you taught yourself in prison how to code. What was that experience like?
Ooh, it was hard. It was hard in the sense of like, I'm in prison, so when people hear me say I learned how to code, they think I had the internet. I didn't.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I thought that.
Yeah, no. Like nowadays, if you look on social media, you'll see people in prison who's doing they got phones.
They got everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so he figured out this skill, which is hard enough on its own, but how did you do that without?
No, that started after I left out of prison. I didn't have a phone in prison.
How did you do this with no computer, though?
Yeah, I did. Okay, so to clarify, I had a computer. So I was in this college program, right? In this college program, they gave us a computer lab, and I was supposed to be typing papers up. I was getting my liberal arts degree. Okay. So thank God for that college, right? It's called Bard Prison Initiative. So I'm studying to get my liberal arts degree. And once I finished that, it was 2 years, I got my degree. I'm still going to the computer lab because now all of a sudden I'm interested in learning how to code, right? So I was reading this article in the USA Today, and it said the mobile explosion of apps, right?
Wait. You were reading a paper article?
Yeah, newspaper. Okay. Yeah, the USA Today.
Wow.
All right, and that was like the big headline, like the mobile explosion of apps, something like that. So I'm like, let me read this. And what it talked about was that people were becoming millionaires and billionaires from building apps. Some of these apps free. I'm like, how? How you building a free app or an app that costs $1 and you become a millionaire?
Right.
So my history, I come from, streets of Buffalo. I was selling drugs at an early age. So I'm looking for a new avenue. So when I hear people becoming rich off of dollar apps, they got my attention.
Right.
So I was scared of coding and tech my whole life, but that article inspired me to try it out. So once again, I'm in this computer lab. I go down there and I find a book on JavaScript coding. And I said, let me see if I could teach myself how to do this. Wow. And yeah, it took me 3 months before I even seen something visually on a computer. But the book had it set up to where you type something into the computer and you get some output. So I was, okay, this looks cool, but where's the visuals? So that's when I started learning that there's other languages like HTML, which shows buttons and images. And then there's Python, which may connect to a database. So, but it took me a year to really get a full understanding of what was going on.
When did you end up actually building an app? Did you get to that point where you were like, this is my app, I finally have the 99-cent, available on Apple Store?
Yeah.
Tell everybody, download it now.
Right, yeah. Well, this is my first idea after reading the article was I wanted to build an app to help kids send pictures and letters to their moms and dad in prison.
Wow.
Because when I went to prison, my daughter was 3 years old. So while I'm in prison, she would send me letters and pictures, but they would come far and few in between because she was only 3, 4, 5 years old. So she needed an adult to help her send it. And I know she wanted to communicate a lot, but her mom was busy. My mom was busy. So she was just waiting for them to send everything out. So I said, what if we can expedite that process? What if there was an app or a website she can go to, type a message, upload some photos, press send, and then some team would print all that out and send it to the prison. So I started building that while in prison. So I built the prototype, the website while I was in prison. That was my first year. That's what kept me going. And that's when I tell people, like, if you want to learn how to code, it's going to be some hard days. So you need a vision, you need a goal, you need something that's going to help you push through those hard moments when it's like, is this worth it? Learning how to code, is it really worth it? It's worth it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Problem, solution.
Yes. Yeah. So I launched that app, and this is the funny part. I turned it into a nonprofit. I went through all of this and wanting to be a millionaire to saying, you know what, how am I going to charge a kid to send photos and letters to their mom or dad in prison? I saw the bigger picture, the greater good. So when I came home, me and my team, my cousin, my daughter, my family, it's a family business. We have a nonprofit called Photo Patch Foundation that allows kids to send pictures and letters to their moms and dad in prison. But I've built some apps since then.
What year did that drop in the app store?
2015.
2015.
Yeah. Oh, no. Actually, let me be more. So when I came home in 2014, we launched a website.
Okay.
My daughter was 9 when I came home from prison.
Wow.
Okay.
It took me 2 or 3 years to teach her how to code. So in 2018, she said, hey.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So you learned how to code in prison, came home, and then what's your daughter's name?
Jayana.
So and then you started teaching Jayana how to code.
Yes. Yeah, for real. She was curious. She was like, what's going on? What you doing on that computer, Dad? So her and her mom, Gina, they moved down to Florida, and she would be able to, that's where I moved. So after prison, I'm from New York. So I left New York and said, I got to go, y'all. Like, y'all done locked me up long enough. Y'all ain't getting no more time for me. I'm going to a whole new place. I went to sunny Florida, and the family moved down there with me. And so I'm coding, and she's watching every day, and she's like, I want to learn that. So I started teaching her, and she was a sponge. She picked it up. But it was 3 years later when she was like, Dad, this website is doing good, but we need an app. Kids want apps. And I'm like, I haven't got to it. So I said, you work on it. And she worked on it for 3 months and came back 3 months later, and she was like, here, it's done. I was like, I didn't help her. I didn't even help her. What I helped her with was launching it into the app store, because you got to go through some legal stuff. But she built it out by herself.
What's that pride like? Of course, you as a father, you're proud that your daughter, but what's her pride like? She was able to build this product and be in the digital space and have that pride of like, I'm an owner of something.
Yeah, I don't know. She's so humble. She's so humble. Me and her mom are always like, girl, be excited. And it came with so many opportunities. It led to her being in Teen Vogue, being in Forbes, being on the Ellen Show, Steve Harvey. It led to a lot of accolades. And every time one came, she just would be like, oh, cool. And I'm like, girl, you doing it. Like, I wish at your age we
I'm
could
her
do
fan.
these kind
That's
of things.
it.
Yeah. But I know she just like, she practices gratitude and humility. And I'm proud of her for that, because I've learned over time, like, you know, life is a roller coaster. So don't get too high at the highs and don't feel too low at the lows, you know? So I'm glad that she's able to stay balanced throughout it all.
That's a great point of don't get too into the lows, because as a Black man, right, in that space, in technology, learning on your own, what were some of the roadblocks, right, that maybe would turn someone off, right, that they have to get around? What were some of the things that you experienced that you was like, no, let me keep going?
Good question. So for one, it was like just being Black, honestly, man. Like, I step into a lot of these spaces and I'm the only one in the room. It's just like, is this for me? So imposter syndrome is something that we all got to get over. And thankfully, I got some opportunities that just boosted my confidence and kept me going forward. Also, having a felony, you know, that was big for me. But honestly, I can say it now, but I lied for the first few years. I didn't tell companies that I had a felony because I wanted to just prove what I can do. Right. And it got to a point to where this one guy, he knew my background, and I was working at a separate company, and he had a tech company. He called me and was like, hey, man, we got a position open for you. And I'm like, you know my background. Like, you're going to bring me in knowing what's, man, I felt so grateful for the opportunity. I was like, good people do exist, you know? So, you know, just dealing with, I guess, just other people's biases. That's a big thing I feel like we have to really deal with. But you got to fight through it. You got to have a bigger vision. I haven't worked for a company in the past 5 years, 6 years now. So I got my own companies now. So that's another thing. Like, if you don't feel confident in going to work for somebody else, start your own business. So I'm a consultant now. I build people's apps and websites, and I don't need permission to do that.
But I think this is a key point to point out, though, right? Like you just said, like, you're going to run into those things, and you're going to have that bias against you just because, right? And in our community, we get kind of caught up in the emotion of, like, somebody dissing us, right? And especially coming from the street, it's like, to be a boss, like, that's the name of the game, right? I'm a boss. To do that, you have to kind of turn those emotions off, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's a key thing, I think, is a key moment for us to learn from right
there.
there.
Man, it's a part of survival. You're right. You're right. You got to know when to tuck your tail and say, you know what, it's not about my pride right now. Let me do what's necessary, especially when you got a family to feed or a community to build. So yeah, I'm really big on seeing a bigger picture and seeing like, okay, what do I got to do? This is a strategy game, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right, I got a question for you. So some things have been happening in the technology space, right? I wonder what your take is on these things with AI happening where they're kind of building these AIs to be coders, and sometimes kids are being maybe discouraged from becoming coders now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a lot of talk about that. We got self-driving cars, but is that going to stop people from learning how to drive? It does. It doesn't make sense. If a robot can cook, is that going to stop you from learning how to cook? Coding is the same way. Somebody still has to tell the software what you want. And sometimes you need that coder's mindset to even know what a computer can do.
Right.
You need to be able to tell it, I need a database, I need a website, and I need something in between to connect it. You need to still learn it, even if I leverage AI. I enjoy using it, right? A client paid me, this is crazy to say. They paid me.
Say it.
Yeah, they paid me, and this is a smaller client, right, compared to some stuff, but it's $3,000 to build this app. But I say that to say, it took me 3 hours to build what they wanted.
So 3 hours, they paid you $1,000 an hour to build an app.
There we go. So
now how can the kids do that?
Right, so you do have to learn the code. Don't be afraid to learn the code, but then learn how it can be easier by leveraging these tools.
Right.
The companies will still hire you to use AI. Right? It's not something that's just going to kick every human out of the business. Somebody still needs to know how to operate the software.
Because even if AI does completely take over coding at some point, by learning coding, you learn the workflow, you learn the language, you learn exactly how things should move. So when you're prompting, which is what you need to know for AI, you're doing it more efficiently and you're becoming better at it.
Yep. And I'll go on to build on top of that. Like, everybody talking about AI, but what about building our own AI? If you can't code, you can't even build your own AI.
Right.
Do we want to be slaves to somebody else's technology?
100%.
Right? Do we want to always use ChatGPT, or do we want to build Black GPT?
Right, right.
Like, we can do our own thing as well. It's not about, okay, well, it's over. They got it and it's done. And then on top of that, we can always, so everybody probably heard of Shopify. Right?
Of course.
Right, Shopify, great e-commerce platform if you want to launch a store. There's still people calling me to this day who say I need an online store, when Shopify is there for them to quickly build a store. They still pay me $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 to build an online store. So even as technology advances, there's still going to be people who don't want to do the work. Even when AI is here, they don't want to learn AI. So I would tell kids, don't be afraid to still learn these skills, because there's going to be people who always just want you to do the stuff for them.
100%. Always love the message. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Learn it. It's the skill you need for moving on in life.
Yes, for sure.
100%. All right, real quick, right? So you mentioned you grew up in Buffalo. Some crime was involved. Buffalo can be rough, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What was the hustle that it took? See, what I'm trying to do is get kids that are on the street now that think that they're not smart enough to learn technology, or it's too complicated, but they're going out and they're taking over blocks, or they're selling their eighths and they're converting that math and they're doing all that because they're putting the hustle behind it. What was your hustle of figuring out? I mean, you already told us, right? But what was your hustle of figuring out, learning the code and saying, you know what, if I can do this in the street, then I can do this from a book, or I can do this from a computer.
Yeah. That word hustle, I think, is key, right? Like, think about sports. When they say hustle up, that means run, go get that ball, or go play defense. I think hustle in itself is not just like a occupation where people think I'm hustling and I'm selling this or that. It's more so the energy that you give to something, right? The grind. And I remember when I was younger, I was selling weed. I used to walk in like this 4-block radius from corner store to corner store to corner store, and just stand in front of that corner store for 20 minutes, see if somebody comes up, and then do a transaction. It was freezing cold outside. I would do that all day. So I remember applying that to learn how to code. I had 9 hours a day to be in a computer lab. I spent all 9 hours learning how to code. So I would tell people, like, just apply that grind, that grit, to just not giving up. Like, I'm going to be here until I make that next evolution by learning this thing. Like, it's gonna be hard some days.
Right.
Don't give up. Just like it was hard, it's gonna be hard if you out there risking your life and your freedom. And
But at least apply it to something that's going to move you forward.
yes, applied. Yeah, some movie really like far forward into the future.
Yeah.
You know, like if you can learn these skills right now, you're gonna be ahead because 2030 is coming. Right. We see the shift that came in 2020.
Yeah.
You know, and now 2030 is gonna be that next big shift.
2010 and 2020.
Yes,
right?
right.
You know what I'm
Think
saying?
about that. Every
And
10
it's
years, right?
Exponentially getting faster and faster.
Yeah.
So how far behind are they going to get left
Right.
if they don't start getting into it now?
Start now. Start. It's not too late. It's not too late. Just in case somebody need to hear that, we need to let them know that too. It's not too late.
Yeah.
And in your Know Your Tech presentation with the students, what are they going to walk away with? Give us a little glimpse for those folks who aren't able to be at the camp. What are the folks going to walk away with after your presentation?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is that coding isn't everything. You know, so people are probably hearing this like, oh man, do I want to be a coder or not? If you have a passion for tech, right? If you have your phone in your hand for 6 hours out of the day, then you have a passion for tech. Find out what your niche is. Like, is it social media management? Is it you may be good at design? You know when you go to a website and this website is trash. Like, look at this. What is this? I hate this website.
This is confusing.
This is confusing. You're probably a product designer or you may be a good product manager if you're good at leading people and helping something go from A to Z. So I'm going to be talking to people about different roles. So everybody doesn't have to be an engineer, a coder. Figure out what's for you.
Get into that STEM.
Yes. Get into STEM.
Well, I mean, this is great information, and we can't wait to share it and pass it along.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you very much for coming through.
Yes.
Definitely. Please follow us on all our socials at Your Rights Camp. And if you're not already watching this video, please go to our YouTube, like and subscribe, Know Your Rights Camp. And if you want to do more and really get involved, please go to knowyourrightscamp.org. Appreciate you.